Hey, welcome everyone. Today, more than ever, the world needs voices that spark change, ignite hope, and drive transformation. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals choose to step forward, speak up, and take bold action. Whether you're leading a global movement or making a difference in your own community, your voice has power. In this podcast, we aim to amplify those voices, share the journey of resilience, change makers, and inspire each of you to recognize your potential to impact the world. Let's create a ripple effect together. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and today our subject is going to be the impact of nutritional deficiencies with my lovely friend who I've known for quite a few years, Michelle Sala, and a lot of people tease her as Michelle Salsa. She gets that
Yep.
all the time. So, Michelle, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, I've known you for quite a while, and you've always been into the nutritional thing, and I know you're helping a lot of people change their lives. And before we really start getting into the nutritional things, I want people to know just a little bit more about you. So you was doing something totally different. If I remember right, it's like in the marketing or something that you was doing, but you finally got tired, which I think a lot of Americans are finally opening their eyes. And it's because of individuals like yourself who is spreading the word, going, I've had enough of big pharma, all these chemicals, they're pushing down our throats, that there is a healthier way to become healthy. And that's pretty much what you did, right? You just finally said, I'm
Absolutely.
going to make
Yep.
a difference.
I had a 23-year career sales and marketing and higher education publishing. So basically, I was selling textbooks to colleges and universities. Um, it was a great job for a long time. And then I got burned out. But during that time, I struggled with skin and gut issues. And I I found out that what I was taking for the skin issues to resolve that was destroying my gut. And then I started having severe acid reflux and gut issues. And when you go to a doctor, they just hand you a prescription. So I did topical things for the skin stuff. I did antibiotic after antibiotic. I took Accutane, I think like 3 rounds of Accutane. And by my middle to late 30s, my gut was a freaking mess. And then I went to the doctor and they just want to hand you a prescription for a meprazole or something stronger like Nexium, which are proton pump inhibitors, which lower the acid in your stomach, which pharmaceuticals just mask symptoms. They don't get to the root cause. And because those medications didn't work, I had to figure out on my own how to heal my own gut. So I started to research and I started to feel better. And there was other things that I figured out that you don't need to go to a doctor for to fix. And I was getting to the root cause and then I wanted to help other people. So 13 years ago, almost 14 years ago, it was the fall of 2011, I quit my job and I did a year-long certification to be an integrative nutritional coach, health coach. And and I started my business in 2012. So it's been a great ride and I've learned so much. And so I really started off helping people in the gut arena because that was what I had personally experienced. And then um, my career has just kind of taken a direction in cellular detoxing. And so I started uh, integrating cellular detoxing in 2017. And so now I consider myself a cellular detoxing expert as well. So if you don't get the junk out of your cells, your body's never going to heal itself. So that's kind of where I am now.
And thank you for doing that. Serious, Michelle. Because it's very important. And I know a lot of people understand, but also there's a lot of people that don't understand. The foods that we are eating is poison. They're full of bacteria, they're full of parasites, they're full of worms. Our body's covered in it, which I have recently learned now through because of doing shows like this, that a lot of these parasites is what causes ADHD, and it causes cancers, and it causes other health issues.
Mhm.
And I also found out too, and if I'm remembering right, that when it's a full moon, which tonight is the full
Mhm.
moon, that these parasites hatch.
Mhm.
And
They're more
so
active.
they're more active. And I'm going, holy crap. So now
Yeah.
lately I have been doing all types of detox, man. I've been doing wormwood and black walnut,
Oh,
zeolite, and chlorine dioxide, and I've been flushing myself out because I was
wow.
having gut issues for 2 months, and I wouldn't go to the doctor, but I was going to the bathroom 11 to 12 times a day.
Wow.
That's not me. My time,
Yeah.
my system is once and I'm done. I wasn't getting all my nutrients because everything was just flushing right through me as quick as they were going in. And that's what started me on my journey, also on learning a little bit more about health by asking
Yeah.
people like yourself, hey, this is what's going on, what's happening inside my body. And you're so right. We have to, people like myself, and I think like you, we go to the gym, we work out, we stay active. This is our outside. But what are
Hmm.
we really doing to take care of our insides? Because that's where the issues are really starting. And if we don't,
Hmm.
um, I've heard quite often that the gut is our second brain. And I've had other people say, you know what,
Hmm.
the gut's the first brain, because we have to have a healthy gut for everything else to work properly.
Well, and you have to wonder if that propensity to gravitate to drugs and alcohol starts as a child who has been eating processed food that's full of glyphosate, and the kids' guts are starting to be destroyed from birth. Because if you have a parent that is not nourishing the kid properly and they're just eating a standard American diet, then their gut bacteria is a disaster from the get-go. So, because the gut is responsible for producing 90% of the serotonin, which is your feel good mood hormone, then already kids from a very early age are dealing with, the ADHD and the mood issues, and they're looking for things to make them feel good. And then they discover drugs and alcohol, and they think they found that thing, that artificial thing, and that vicious cycle of using drugs and alcohol to feel better, and then you know that it's not good for you and you stop and you feel like crap and you don't want to go there, but that physical discomfort is so great that you go back to the drugs and the alcohol. So I really think for a lot of people that gut dysbiosis starts in childhood, because if you think about it, most people don't become, you're not just 30 or 40 years old and all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to start, trying this drug or that drug. Those things start early in childhood. And is it because the gut has already been destroyed? So babies that are born C-section, they miss out on the vaginal flora of the mother. And that's where, so when you're in utero, your gut has no bacteria. And as soon as you're in the real world, it starts getting populated by good bacteria and bad bacteria. And that first exposure to good bacteria is going through the vaginal canal. So now you've got all of these kids that are being born C-section because it's easier. People are considered, doctors will put women in a high risk um, arena, even if they're not necessarily high risk. They don't want to take on the risk. So they just automatically, order a C-section before it's even to the point where, oh yeah, the baby's not going to come out. So people are scheduling, when they want to have birth. So that I think there's this also that is contributing to this gut dysbiosis in kids because they're not getting that natural flora from the get-go. So then where are you getting the bacteria from? So you take the baby out from the, abdomen, and there's always bacteria on, even if a doctor has scrubbed and has gloves, there's still bacteria on the instruments, on the gloves, in the air, on the blanket that they just wrapped you in. But that's not the good bacteria.
Wow. Yeah, so
So
it's not as clean as what we all think it is then.
no. Well, and then what is clean? Because
Yeah.
sterile is, there somebody came out with a book a few years ago, Eat Dirt, because kids don't go out and play and eat dirt and make mud pies like they used to, right?
I used to do it.
Yeah. So that, pulling our grandparents would grow a garden and grow carrots, and you'd pull the carrot out of the ground and eat the carrot with the dirt on it. There's good bacteria that comes from the soil. Kids aren't getting exposed to that good bacteria anymore because nobody's playing outside, nobody's growing gardens, or they're growing gardens in soil that's not, good bacteria because of the
Yeah.
chemicals in our environment. So,
So you're saying the Xbox controls don't have good bacteria on it?
well, probably not. They have bacteria. It's probably
But
E. coli because
because
they didn't wash their hands when they went and took a break.
yeah, and if a lot of our listeners and they've seen a few shows like this, and if you guys are wondering what this has to do really with addiction, it has a lot to do with addiction. I mean, Michelle just touched base on it here just a little bit about having the unhealthy gut, and the majority of the guests that have come on my show, their addiction started right around the puberty age, around the 11, 12, 13, 14 area. And
Mhm.
yes, a lot of them have gone through a ton of trauma in their life, whether they came from a house that was already filled with drugs and alcohol, or they were abused, or there's just so many of them. However, I never, until now, until you said it, Michelle, I never put the two together because you could be adding a double whammy on
Mhm.
already what they're going through because of not having the proper nutrition.
Mhm.
Because since I've started really cleaning myself out and detoxing and doing a little bit more of this, I've started noticing my energy level going up. And
Mhm.
I think it's because I'm starting to get a lot of the heavy metals out of my system. And I got thinking, it's like you can't stop eating the foods that we have. You can go gluten free and all kinds of different things to help with inflammation and all this other stuff. However, until which maybe it's going to change now, but until we put a crackdown on the FDA and these food industries, we're still
Mhm.
going to be having poison put in our system. And the only way we can protect ourselves is by speaking with somebody, an expert like yourself, who has studied it, who has lived it, right? You lived it. You had health issues and fixed it on your own without going to a doctor and paying a $200 doctor bill for 5 minutes just for him to get out a pad to give you a
Mhm.
prescription that's now going to cause two other issues for another prescription that's going to cause five other issues to get another prescription that's going to give you 10 other issues because it just keeps compounding, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So when it comes to the recovery, and this was part of my training about the brain first approach, we start feeding our gut and our brain the proper nutrition.
Mhm.
Especially, I've learned a lot. Fats are really good for the brain. We need our fats. I think it's time the majority of these recovery centers, which not all of them, I'm just going to put it out there, not all of them give a shit about the people that walk in their door. They're there for the money that comes in.
Right.
It's just a rotating ATM. However, there are some out there that are there for, they love and care for every person that walks in that door. if I think if they start looking at changing their nutrition, how they're feeding them, I
Hmm.
think they would have even a better success rate because now you're getting rid of the unhealthy neurons, firing new healthy neurons, and you're healing the body from the inside out.
Absolutely. I'm guessing the really expensive high-end rehab places that cater to celebrities have a much better um, success rate or offering of nutritional higher nutritional offering at those really expensive places. I think those people demand it, but I think the average person who doesn't have very much money and is maybe getting a government subsidy in order to be in a rehab place, I don't think those places care about the nutritional thing. Um, but I think that if people were, as they were detoxing from the drugs and the alcohol, if they were being fed nutritionally dense foods, good fats, if they were being given the a nutritional concoction with B vitamins and things to help detox and repair the liver, things that probiotics that were reestablishing the gut flora so that the serotonin was at proper levels because 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. 90%. So when you say, the gut is the second brain, but you really think it should be considered the first, I think when you're looking at 90%, that's how can you discount that? Um, so 10 years ago, they would they thought it was more like 65% that the gut was responsible for making your serotonin, but now it's the last couple of years, they're like, no, it's 90% of your cells in the gut are producing serotonin or producing 90% of your serotonin, and only your brain is producing 10%.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah, that is
Huge.
really huge.
Hmm.
It's amazing what our gut can do. I mean, seriously, and our
Hmm.
intestines are huge, right? I mean, we have so much in this little body of ours. It's and if we have that whole thing packed full of bacteria and parasites and things, no wonder we're so unhealthy.
So if you consider that the gut, not only is it responsible for producing neurotransmitters, but it's your first line of defense for your immune system. So things that go through your mouth and your nose, they are going to try to kill pathogens. That's your first um line of defense for killing pathogens. So you're at the grocery store, your hands are on a cart, you pick up somebody else's germs, they have cold or COVID or something like that, and you touch your nose, and or like you're at Costco and after you've touched the cart and then you get one of one of the food samples, well,
Yeah.
you're just spreading stuff around. But if you have a well-working immune system, your stomach acid and your those immune receptors that go from your mouth to your stomach are going to catch like 90% of the stuff that you're coming in contact with. So you need proper gut function. You need the right amount of stomach acid in order to kill those pathogens. But what is Big Pharma doing? You go to the doctor for acid reflux, and they give you a proton pump inhibitor, or people are taking omeprazole over the counter because it's over the counter now, and you're diminishing your stomach acid, which is now diminishing your immune system and your neurotransmitters and your ability to produce vitamin B12. So we're killing ourselves.
Yeah. You know, I have an issue with certain foods that give me heartburn really bad, which is crazy. I can eat salsa. I put Tabasco almost on everything. I'm fine. However, something that has like marinara sauce on it,
Mm.
any kind of like certain spices that go in for like taco seasoning and things like that, it gives me heartburn really, really bad. And I was to a point where this past year, I was taking way too many Tums. And I know that's not good for you because
Mhm.
I've had people say, oh, no, it's good for you because it's calcium. Well, no, it's not. And I've even heard some
Yeah.
doctors say it's good for you. And I know it's not. So I was freaking talking to my friend Jessica, who I mentioned to you before, and she's like, Al, go to Sprouts and go buy you some aloe vera juice,
Uh,
and get the whole leaf. There's a whole leaf and there's an inner leaf or whatever. And
yeah.
so I have a bottle in my refrigerator, big bottle. So anytime I get the heartburn now, I'm going over there and I'm taking a swig of that. And
Yeah.
really starting to subside. I think my gut, whatever it's doing inside there, is really starting to heal it. It's taking some time, of course,
Mm.
but I'm not taking hardly near as many. And some days, all I got to do is just take 3 or 4 swigs of that throughout the day, and I'm
Mhm.
good. It works for me. And I'm going, oh my gosh, finally, I got something to where I'm not taking so many freaking Tums.
The other thing I like for that is called DGL. It's diglycerized licorice, and it comes in a tablet that you can chew, and that helps to also soothe acid. But the problem, so aloe vera, DGL, that helps to soothe the discomfort, but you still have to take another step backwards. And the reason why you're getting this reflux is because you don't have enough stomach acid. So when you have those things that are super acidy, you think it's because there's too much acid. But what's happening is that sphincter at the bottom of the esophagus and that connects your stomach with your esophagus, it's relaxed for whatever reason. It can be from your stomach's overfull. It can be from drinking alcohol. It can be because you have some dysbiosis in there's yeast in your stomach and it's putting pressure on that sphincter. So then it opens up and it's relaxed. And that acidy food you just ate is coming up and now it's in your esophagus in a place where it's not supposed to be. And you feel the acid. So you might be eating other foods that aren't acidy that are there. So you might just have pressure, but you don't taste or feel the acid. But um, one thing that's good to add to your supplementation is to take betaine HCl, which you take at the end of a meal, especially if you're eating a heavy meal like with meat. And then that helps to break down the food better. So
Okay.
that's something that has really helped me when I've had bad acid reflux. And it's usually not something you have to take forever. You have to get your stomach to make its own acid. But if you've been on something like omeprazole for many years, your stomach is low in acid and you have to like train it to produce acid again. So
Interesting.
yeah.
To go back into like the recovery stuff. So the people who trained me, Dave and Susan Kenny, they're out of Canada,
Mm,
and they were my coaches to get me certified. And they owned a recovery center in Canada, very, very successful, had a huge success rate. And I remember when I first met them, that's how I met them, is they ended up being guests on my show. And
mm,
that's how we met one another. And they said that they worked in proper nutrition, and it wasn't really in the cost of having someone come through. They
mm,
actually did that extra cost themselves to still make it reasonable for people to come through their facility.
mm,
They would actually have people, they wouldn't even really work with them and sit down with them, at least for the first 2 weeks that they were there at their facility, because they wanted them to have proper nutrition for the first 2 weeks to help
mm.
get their mind back kind of in a somewhat state of relaxation and not
Yeah.
constantly craving that whatever it was that they were there for. And they said it made such a huge difference. And a lot of them, it took that irritability, right? Because
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've not ever had to go through a recovery center, and I know a lot of people who have, and they've talked about it. And I mean, the first couple of weeks that they're there, especially the first week, they're as irritable as all get out, right? Because they're not getting their drug of choice, and they're wanting it, and they don't want to really be there. And it's very frustrating for them. However, again, going back to that proper nutrition, it really helps settle all that down to make it somewhat manageable for these individuals to start their journey, which is already going to be a hard journey in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I could totally see that being a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I again, I would love to see, and a few of us in my circle in the recovery community, we've actually talked about, what if we started our own little place and opened it up and did things totally different than what anybody's doing? And that's offering proper nutrition and offering supplements. We just have to figure out how to bring all that in, because if you start adding, I think we can add a nutritionist in. We just to add a doctor in, that's a whole new ball game. But again,
Mhm.
we don't want a doctor.
Right.
Unless it's functional medicine. If it's a functional medicine person, then possibly. But if we could open up a place and just have great nutrition and learning how to retrain the mind, my gosh, our version is we would have a very successful facility that could help
Mhm.
hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals.
Well, you mentioned earlier about how you're doing heavy metal detoxing, and that is something that is part of the cellular detoxing that I do. And people that have been on drugs they have so many heavy metals in their brain and on a cellular level. And to get that junk out of people's bodies is also going to help them stay clean because they're just going to feel better and they're going to heal from the cellular level out. So if you think about people that have been shooting up and doing street drugs, those things are so toxic, so full of heavy metals. So, and the metals go in, but they don't come out easily. You have to be taking the right type of supplements in order to draw that stuff out. So if you've got people that have stopped using, but their body is still so toxic on a cellular level, from a heavy metal parasite point of view, even if you start with the nutrition stuff, that heavy metal toxicity will not come out unless you do the proper detoxing. So it has to be multifaceted how you target it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it most certainly it most certainly
Yeah.
does. I'm very grateful because I'm to a point finally in my life where I can put some money towards my own self-health, right? And I'm so grateful. So I just dropped like 160 bones on some nutritional stuff yesterday, right?
Mm,
And I've started taking binders because I understand binders are really good to help
absolutely.
draw a
Yep.
lot of the metals and all that stuff that's in your body. And
Hmm.
it's crazy. I was talking to I've got a handful of lady friends, including yourself, who are all in this health industry, right? And y'all are teaching me so freaking much. And I was telling my friend Rachel the other day, I says, I am so grateful for all these women I have in my life who have all this knowledge. And she goes, yeah, just consider us all your white witches. And I'm like, I am. I'm just so grateful because all I got to do is pick up the phone and call any one of you. And it's like, here's what you need to do. And so I am probably taking more supplements now than I have in years. Of course, I
Mm,
didn't have the means to get them before.
yeah.
And I was doing my best to purchase like the cheap ones that you get on Groupons. And I think
Yeah.
all I was doing was just putting more garbage in my system. And
Yeah.
I finally recognized that and stopped doing that. So I'm really excited to see where this whole new journey, even for me, what you and Jessica and Rachel and Jamie and all these ladies who are teaching me all this stuff of,
Mhm.
I mean, I've even started taking ivermectin, which,
Oh, yeah.
they pulled that off the
Mhm.
shelves back in, I don't want to mention, I think when, back in
Yep.
2020, because I've had a show pulled already once because I mentioned that too.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
but
I
anyway,
think things are going to change though in the next few
I
years.
think so too. I'm excited to see, but so yeah, I actually been taking ivermectin every day, and it's ivermectin that's come from Mexico. And now
Hmm.
I just had a friend tell me that they found a source in India that it's
Hmm.
supposed to be really, really good. And
Yeah.
I'm learning all this stuff, what ivermectin does, how it can shrink cancer tumors, and I
Yeah,
mean
they're finding,
it's doing
I guess.
so much.
Mhm.
So it's crazy what's out there because it's time we wash our hands of Big Pharma. They've made their
Yeah.
billions. They got enough money to last them until the end of the frickin' world, whenever that is. And they're
Yeah.
still wanting more. And it's time we start taking care of ourselves instead of making them richer and us unhealthy.
Yeah. I would caution people that one mistake people make is they discover this supplement and they're like, "Oh, that does this." And then they find this supplement and they start collecting supplements. And so like you just said, you're taking more stuff than you've ever taken before.
Mm-hmm.
You can take too much at once. So you really want a trained professional that can guide you through this journey. And so I use muscle testing. I try to keep people at 5 to 6 things in a 30-day period and rotate things depending on what they need to work on because you can do too much at once and you can be spending too much
Mm-hmm.
and it might be a slower process to do 5 or 6 key supplements at a time, but you're not going to break the bank that way. It's easier on your body. Everybody has a different tolerance for detoxing, and sometimes just when you keep adding stuff you can be overdoing it. So I just caution people to work with somebody who can help you make sure that what you're taking right now is what your body needs right now. And it doesn't mean you need to take stuff forever.
Right.
Um, and I do muscle testing and I even teach people how they can muscle test themselves to determine if they should be continuing to take stuff or not to take stuff. So
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Michelle, really, because again, a lot of the gals that I've talked to, they've said that same thing, right? It's like,
good.
and I asked one of them just the other day, I says, really, if you would sit down with me, because I'm a visual type person,
Uh-huh.
don't send me a link and ask me to read it and figure it out. Sit down with me on visual. Like if I write it down, it sticks in my head better. And
Hmm.
so I can make sure that I'm doing everything in the proper way. And when I
Yeah.
mean by adding a lot more, so I've always had my supplements for my gym stuff, right? Like my BCAs. And now there's, my friend Jessica's really good on amino acid therapy, and it's the different type of amino acid therapy, not
Hmm.
the BCAs. And I think a lot of people get it confused because they're too different. But yeah, I'm really counting on them because they are the professionals like yourself that can really help. Because again, my friend Rachel told me that the other day. She goes, get this stuff, and she goes, we're gonna go in and we're gonna knock this stuff out of you. And she's
Hmm.
like, after that, you may only need one of these.
Hmm.
See where you're at, or you may two, or maybe you might not need anything again for down the road. And so that's what I'm loving about individuals like yourself who have gone through so much training and this knowledge of helping us and helping other individuals who are battling with things right now. And I think that's why we see such an increase in child cancer and children cancer and ADHD and all this. And it's because of the poisons that's in our foods. And again, you mentioned it, all the doctors are doing is put it like somebody who's battling addiction, no matter what that addiction is, it's just the band-aid. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what they're doing to us. They're just giving us a band-aid. They're not figuring out what the problem is. And
Hmm.
individuals like yourself, Michelle, you guys dig down deep. You guys figure out where is the problem coming from, because we have to find that problem to start our journey. You just
Yeah.
don't say, well, here's this, hand them 5 or 6 or 2 or 3 different things and go start here and let's see what happens. You guys actually do the research. You take the time to find out what that individual is needing so you guys have a starting point. And that is so huge in my world.
Yeah. So you mentioned, the trauma that people go through, especially in childhood, that leads to drug and alcohol addiction. But yes, that physical part absolutely needs to be addressed as well. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So the other neurotransmitter that I think is worth bringing up is dopamine. So dopamine is that reward transmitter and motivation. So um, that's one thing. Another thing that alcohol and drugs do is it boosts dopamine. You know, we I I'm going to reward myself with a drink. I'm going to reward myself getting high. And we have also become addicted to our phones and social media. We get a dopamine kick from those things. And so we are addicted to dopamine. And you take away the drugs and the alcohol, where are people going to get their dopamine hit now? So, one of the things that really helps with that is exercise and the physical part of it. So, um, you know, rehab places should really be incorporating exercise and physical movement because that is going to help people feel better. It's going to help their mood. Um, I work out regularly. I know you do. But sometimes I can be lazy, I'll admit it. Sometimes if it's a cold morning, I'd rather sit in bed with the phone scrolling through social media with the cat laying on me and a cup of coffee. And it's so I have to push myself to go to the gym. But once I'm at the gym, I am never sorry I've worked out, ever. And we need to get people to get to that point. Whether you have an addiction problem or not, there are people out there dealing with type 2 diabetes, other health conditions that can really be helped by regular exercise, by lifting weights, by going to the gym. You don't have to be a maniac about it.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week and you lift some weights and you start building muscle, and your mood issues, your anxiety, people are just going to feel better in general.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with you 100% on that. That's literally what started my journey, Michelle. And I don't even know if you know this. I don't think you really know my whole story.
I
When I
don't.
lost my job in 2009 due to a dirty UA because I spent 8 years every weekend snorting cocaine and drinking. That was my dopamine hit after being a stressful
Mm,
week at work, right? That was my release to forget about work. I was 198 pounds, never ever weighed close to that my whole life. I mean, if I looked down, I couldn't see the point of my cowboy boots because my belly was so big. And I'd look in the mirror and thought I looked good,
mhm.
until I saw pictures of myself. And I'm like, oh my hell. When I saw my wedding pictures, I'm like, my gosh, I look like a whale in a tux, you know? And the only thing I knew where to start my new journey was fitness because I was always been active. I used to bodybuild, I used to compete. And so that's what I did. I jumped on a mountain bike and I just started riding around the block. And I did that every day for
Mm,
quite a while. And the next thing I knew, I was doing a mile. Then it was 3 miles. Then it was 6 miles. Then it was 7 miles. And then I was able to finally get to where I had a place to go work out. And I would just do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because I hadn't done it in so long because all I did was work and then party my ass off on the weekends.
mm,
It was a start because
mhm.
just so our listeners know, and I believe Michelle, well, I would hope Michelle would agree with me, is people jump in, us Americans, we want everything now, 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 now. If I'm going to do it, I want my reward within a week. And it doesn't work that way, especially if you've battled addiction. Your addiction just didn't happen overnight. It was something that grew within time. To get yourself on the other side, you have to grow and groom yourself as well. And those little teeny baby steps really, really help. And I went 3 days a week when I could finally even afford a gym membership.
Mm,
And I did that for I think three years. And then I finally got to the point, it's like, you know what? I can do 5 days a week now. And I've been
mm.
doing 5 days a week. Gosh, I've been doing this consistently for the past, let's see, I lost my job in 2009, 2010, since about 2011. I
Oh,
have
wow.
I have gone consistently first the 3 days a week, and now it's been Monday through Friday. And if I miss a day, I'll go Saturday, and it's amazing where it takes you, like you said, and it's been that journey. And I like to tell a lot of people too is don't look how hard it's going to be. Just enjoy the journey,
Hmm.
because there are days like what you said, especially in the winter. I love the place where I sleep. I love it to be cool at night because I sleep better. And I have these big, heavy, like quilts, like my grandma made me, that weigh like 100 pounds when they're laying on
Right.
top of you. And it's so comfy. And there's so many mornings I literally have to say, get your freaking ass out of bed and get
Mm,
to the gym. And when I go on those mornings like that, those end up being my best workouts. And
hmm.
I don't know why, but it's the days that I have to push my butt out of bed to get there and they end up being my best days because I'm just full of energy and life the whole day.
Yeah. I think because for me, it's because I'm so grateful I pushed myself and I was there. Yeah, it's definitely more rewarding when I really had to push myself to be there.
Yeah.
But working out is the best anti-aging strategy. And that's what I always tell my clients is if you want to look younger and feel younger, it doesn't matter how old you are when you start, work out, lift weights, lift heavy weights. Don't do sissy weights that you're doing, looking around the ceiling, doing 15. Make it hard to the almost to the point of grunting. And I don't care if you're a woman, lift heavy weights, you will feel younger a lot longer and stay
As
younger looking.
as long I want to add in there, as long as you don't have injuries, because I got two bad shoulders and there's
Yeah,
be a certain weight I can go, because if not, I
right.
I feel it. But yes, I would have to agree with you on that. You
Yes.
really have to push yourself on it.
And work with a trainer, figure out how to do it. Don't just go in there to the gym by yourself. Work with a trainer, have somebody show you how to do the movements properly, know your limits. But it's not cheap to get a trainer, but it is a valuable investment.
Yeah. Well, just like the nutrition that we've been talking about, right? And even supplements, because it's a heck of a lot cheaper to buy the proper supplements, purchase
Hmm.
the proper food to eat, which is still going to have different things still in it. There's no way of getting around. I think even organic, you're still going to have something in it.
Yep.
However, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than going to a doctor and finding out you have diabetes or you have
Mhm.
cancer or you have some other kind of health issue, because then the cost really skyrockets. And then you have to work extra hard if you choose to beat whatever it is that you're battling now.
Right. And we can't depend on Western medicine to fix us because they're just going to hand us prescriptions that make us worse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For those of you that watch TV, pay attention to the commercials, because I
Yes.
swear every week or every other week, you'll see a new commercial of a new drug that's come out. I
Hmm.
mean, they've got new drugs for some of the most craziest stuff that I've ever heard of. I mean, I'm waiting for them to come out with some kind of drug you can take if you have split ends. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, I'm waiting for oh, do you suffer with split ends? Here, take this drug and it fixes it, you know? Because again, my belief is, or my version of it is they just want to poison us, and it's working, and we're allowing it to happen, and thank goodness we have individuals like yourself that do a lot of holistic stuff and different things, and they're helping other individuals realize what's out there. Because I tell you what, even back in the 1800s, I mean, they were coming out with tonics that had a lot of poison in it. However, Native
Yeah.
Americans is a great
Mercury and
example, right? Native Americans, they lived off of
arsenic.
plant and herbs and roots. It was what
Mhm.
God put here for us. It's here. He put everything here that we need to put back into our body to help our body. But then Western medicine came in and goes, oh, well, if we change this a little bit, we can make more money. And it's just skyrocketed from there.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a big turnaround in the next couple years for health. I think we're going to see more awareness in the food supply and what's healthy, what's not healthy. I think we're going to see a lot of ingredients banned that are in our foods. There's already a huge movement in the last couple months that has been on the mainstream media and the internet. The difference in formulas for like cereal, like Fruit Loops that's sold in Canada and Europe, and Fruit Loops that's sold here, and the artificial colors and preservatives that they use in the formulas here to make like the colors in the Fruit Loops like more vibrant. Those artificial colors contribute to ADHD, cancer, mood issues, and the food companies are trying to tell us, well, that's what the US market wants. But Canada and the EU have banned those ingredients because they know they're dangerous for mood, cancer causing irritants. And I think it's going to be a good thing for the people of our country. We have the lowest mortality rate of all industrialized Western countries. How can that be?
Right?
How can that be? We are supposedly have the best medical system, the best food supply, but we have the lowest age of death. And now our kids are not even outliving their parents.
Right. Yeah, you're 100%
So
right. Yeah.
yeah, the average age is of life is actually decreasing in the last 4 years. That's pretty sad.
It is sad. It definitely is sad. Someone said to me the other day that the seasoning or the chemicals or whatever that they put on Cheetos,
Uh-huh.
the
Doritos.
so they have the what is it the inflamed Cheetos or whatever, the
Yeah,
hot
it's the
Cheetos.
Doritos. It's the
Is it
hot.
the
Yeah,
Doritos? So
yeah.
they said they will catch on fire. You can light it and they catch on fire. And they're like, what food catches on fire when you start it with a lighter? That's telling you the chemicals that are on this thing, right? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. They're like, no, it catches on fire. I'm like, my gosh. Yeah, so check your pantry.
Yes.
Huh.
So I don't, I got married this year and I inherited four stepchildren, and it's been super fun, like making them aware of these foods. And in the last 2 years since I met my husband and the kids, and I've just really cleaned out the pantry, and they eat so much healthier. There's like no junk food in the house. And his oldest just got married in August, and when they came back from their honeymoon, they wanted me to go to shopping with them at Costco to show them what would be healthy to stock the refrigerator and pantry with. And I made like little monsters out of them now. They're like, gosh, do you realize what's in this? Do you realize what's in that? So it doesn't take much to point out to people what's healthy and what's not healthy. And the people that are starting to be parents now, they've got to make this change now, or because kids are so sick now. So over 50%, I think it's like 54% of children have chronic illnesses. Chronic. They've got asthma, eczema, ADHD. They are on the autism spectrum. Those kids are all so vulnerable to being susceptible to drug and alcoholism.
Wow.
So we've got to make that change now. The parents, the people that are becoming parents now have to change the diet of their kids. They have to rethink the V. I'm not going to say the word because that might get you. Yeah, but yeah, you have to rethink the toxins we're putting into these little bodies.
Yeah, I would have to agree because it's getting we're losing too many children. And I mean we are, right? Because a lot of these children, they're not making it. They're not beating their battle. And I mean, every time I see a St. Jude's commercial or something like that, I just get tears in my eyes because these kids should be out there enjoying life and playing and when I was a child growing up, very seldom did you hear of somebody becoming very sick. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's something that's really common. You know, so
Yeah.
and so is getting taken out of school because he's got cancer, he or she has cancer, or because of whatever else. And the only thing that I can see that has changed is what we're putting in our system. I mean, our air is getting more polluted, of course, because there's a lot more stuff out there. And it's something I've brought up in a few shows, and I'm sure you already know this, Michelle. The food industries have spent billions and billions of dollars to find out what certain chemicals
Absolutely.
change our dopamine, as you mentioned earlier, to get us addicted to whatever it is that they're selling. And all
Absolutely.
we're doing is poisoning ourselves even more. So they're using that, and they know how the brain works with addiction because of all the research that they're doing, and they're combining the two together, and they're
Yep.
trapping us. They are trapping
Yep.
us.
100%. People don't realize that the tobacco companies bought the food companies. They already had, they already know what is addictive. So they just went from tobacco to food. They know how these chemicals affect people's brains.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care that that same the food addiction is the beginning of drug and alcohol addiction. So you've got kids eating this processed food that has been engineered to make you addictive. And now your very sensitive brain, the first time you try a drug or alcohol, is responding at an even higher level than the food addiction. It is all connected.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even afterwards, right? And I think you said this at the beginning of the show, Michelle. You have someone who has really worked hard to get to be on the other side of whatever addiction it was that they have. However, they still fall back to some of those old patterns. So like my ex, she is just like addicted to sugar. I mean, she has
Yes.
to have a pop every night, a candy bar every night, and it's like clockwork, right? And it's because of the alcoholism, because alcohol has a ton of sugar in it. And
Mhm.
now, at least when she was in her 2.5 year sobriety, she was constantly craving that sugar. And I
Mhm.
mean, she went from 109 pounds up to 130 something pounds in no time. And it's not that she was really eating lots of unhealthy stuff. It was just that crave for constant sugar
Yeah.
and the body adjusting with not having the alcohol anymore. So it was making that adjustment for something else, which the brain was still addicted to.
So this is an interesting fact is that the children of alcoholics, they may not have an alcohol addiction problem themselves, but they tend to be very sensitive to sugar and are sugaraholics. So you might see that in certain individuals who have had like an alcoholic parent. And Yes, they eat a lot of sugar because their brains are more sensitive and in need of these dopamine hits. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a is the genetic disposition because that alcoholic parent has changed their DNA and passed it to their kid? Is it just inherent because it's been there for many generations? I don't know for a fact, but there is information that does show that children of alcoholics tend to be extremely sensitive to sugar and crave sugar more than the average person.
Wow. That's an
Yeah.
interesting fact. Holy cow. Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Michelle, is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about? Is there something else that you have in mind that you think would be some really good information for our listeners?
I just want people to realize that this nutritional deficiencies are so important to recovery. I didn't really mention B vitamins, but vitamin D, magnesium, zinc are so important to recovery. Those are the things that really should be introduced to people that are going through recovery from the get-go because people have been so depleted either because the drugs and the alcohol block the absorption, or people just are eat such poor diets that they're not even getting it in the first place. I just hope that, especially if people are trying to recover on their own, some people are able to. And if you include those nutrients from the get-go, I just think that people would have a much better chance of recovery, feel better. But don't miss that component, the exercise, the nutrients, the gut biome. That has to be part of your recovery, and just find somebody who can help you with that journey.
Yeah. So if someone was interested in contacting you, Michelle, how would they find you?
You can find me at michellesala.com. I have a link that you can book a 30-minute complimentary consultation. My phone number here is 801-290-8906. But my email is michelle@michellesala.com. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm here in the Salt Lake area. I have an office in South Jordan, but I do have a lot of clients that are virtual. So if you are not in the Salt Lake area, I can help you as well.
You know, that is something that's really cool too, because I know a lot of the other gals that I know, a lot of their clients are out of Salt Lake, out of Utah, in different states, and it's so cool to be able to be on a Zoom or some kind of face-to-face call and help educate people. So that is something that really came out of 2020, something that really changed and
Mhm.
was actually a benefit, for a lot of businesses because we realized we didn't always have to do things face to face. We could be all over the world in no time.
Yeah. The only problem with all over the world is I can't ship all over the world. So I do carry two lines. I carry this line is Systemic Formulas. It's a professional supplement line that's out of Ogden. And that's more for my nutritional deficiency stuff. And then my product that's in the back over there, that's Cell Core. That's my detox line. So if people are looking for a Cell Core practitioner, you need to be working with a professional in order to have access to that line and use it properly. So
Okay.
they're out of Meridian, Idaho, and a lot of people in the Utah, Idaho area are familiar with that company.
Wow. Well, and
So
Idaho's not too far from us.
not too far. No.
Yeah, fairly close. Michelle, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us, and thank you for all this great information that you shared with us. I mean, this was really educational. It was for me. That's why I love having all these shows and be able to have this platform to get other people to get out there, get their name out there, let other people know what they know because they've studied, they've educated themselves. And as long as we're all working together and collaborating, we can change the world, maybe one person at a time, but we're still changing it, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Al. It was an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, guys, again, remember, thank you so much for all our guests, all our past guests, all our listeners, guys. None of this would be possible if it wasn't for you. You guys are the ones that's making this happen. Gosh, it's hard to believe here. We're only like 4 months away for being 4 years of doing this show. Today was actually the 312th episode, and I was shocked when I hit 100, and now here we are. We'll be at
That's awesome.
400 before too long. So again, thank you to every single one of you. You guys are the ones that's making this a success. So we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.